Hiya, it's Xavier, and today in the Bonsai Retreat we're finally going to get around to some ash. Not the smoking sort, this is a gag reel or something. No, we're getting on with these. And I've showed this one I think in one or two other videos. Ash are really straightforward. They grow like weeds in the UK, and on a walk in the countryside on a sort of early winter's afternoon, I'm sure you can find the odd little one secreted about that you might well find comes back home with you. But regardless of that, I love them. And again, I've got this fascination for the bigger leaf varieties, whether it be oak, whether it be sycamore. I think they can make some really challenging bonsai, but especially if you go a bit mame or shohin with them. Gee, I sound like I know what I'm talking about again. I really must stop doing that, because as soon as someone writes something in the comments, it's pretty clear I don't. Oh, and I must say, obviously everything with me is long sleeve. I'll often have my collar up, and it's straightforward. I have sensitive skin, and the doctors advised me that high factor sun cream and basically wear a boiler suit and I should be fine. And also, I'm still practicing with the different settings on my camera, so I know on one of my previous videos, a bit grainy, but you know, as Adam said of Notion Bonsai, I've got to keep practicing, and eventually I may actually become quite decent at this. So anyway, oh, I've got another announcement as well. This announcement is probably going to be 3 weeks after it happened, but my son James, who you know from the Cotoneaster challenge, and in fact I might show you a short clip right now just to remind you who he is.
Hello, this is James from the top of the garden instead of the bottom, thanks to my nice new desk. Wonderfully, Dad's picked the time of filming just when the guy next door started sawing, but there we go. So, back to my tree then. So obviously last time I was working on this nice artificial spiral, which my dad loves, but oh well.
Is it scarring at all?
No, it doesn't look like it.
But
if I left the wire on longer, it might have.
It's still holding its shape?
It is. I just finished rewiring the trunk, and now it's just a case of putting it back into the shape that I want and trying to really get these branches pointing the direction I want.
And about the only thing you might want to do is look for just turn it carefully upside down, supporting that root ball, and have a look and see if there are any hard downward pointing roots that you want to get rid of now. So
anyway, he went off to Rome with Kat and his lovely girlfriend Mim, and well, I knew this was going to happen, but in front of a very beautiful Roman fountain, he proposed. And believe it or not, after saying, "Are you serious?" she said yes. So there's a lovely picture of the couple, and I do hope I embarrass them appropriately, but you know, my family are part of this channel, and where they allow me, you can share that too. The bit that was most touching is that I mean, James wanted to give her Zita's engagement ring, which is well, it must be a nice ring because I picked it originally 34 years ago, and I saw it on Mim's finger, and I won't lie, tears to my eye. And to see that continuation of my late wife through my son and his future wife was heartwarming. I'll say thanks for putting up with that, and let's crack on and look at the ash, shall we? So let's have a spin of this one. Lovely, beautiful Dawn Isaac ceramic. And if you haven't seen her stuff, you really must check out her website. I have all the links in my description. She's becoming more and more, certainly locally popular and famous, and I struggle to get pots from her these days. But this, as I say, was as a result of a dig from a place where I used to get my Christmas trees. I'm leaving this base and this lovely movement in the trunk alone, where the scarring's healed over, is so interesting. And actually, the challenges of ash are quite small, because all you've got to do is remember compound leaves. That means they come out in this instance with 4 pairs of leaves. That's the entire leaf. So if you imagine you're doing a leaf cutting to try and promote budding, you just cut 2 off, or maybe 1 pair off, and that's the equivalent of when we halve a leaf or something to try and get the tree to push out. So all I'm going to do, I mean, I love all this. I'm just going to bring the top in a bit, and see how it goes. So this first one, we've got a few stubs. We've got a stub here, but let's get the leaves back first. So looking right at the top, we've got the opportunity. We've got leaf down here, leaf here. I think the first thing I can see straight away, I want to get rid of that one. And probably want to get rid of that one as well. Okay, we'll sort that stub out later. The wire's been on for a little while, but it's certainly not scarring or looking like it's bubbling up or anything, so I'm happy with that. So moving out, we've got under here little one there, and you can already see there is the black bud that's going to push out another one, and it may well be that I quite like to have a second one coming out there. So we've got these here. I'll remove the top pair of leaves. I'm going to cut those back to just the 3. Move around here. We've got this one on the out. Don't want the one on the in. Take this one back to 3. So we go higher up. I'm going to take that back to 2. This one to 2. And again we go higher up the tree so I can see what's going on. And again, part of the reason, as I always say, we're cutting these back to there is we want to let light and air get in. What we need to do is give ourselves room to think and look at it properly as to how we're going to approach this. So this is coming towards, do I want to stop the upward growth here? You look at that, so that I get the division coming from this point, and I think that's probably not a bad idea, so we'll cut that off, and I'm going to reduce those back to 2. Okay, and I know as it stands that comes across, but there's some limitations when you're dealing with ash. 1 pair, 2, 3, we've got this 4th one here, we'll get rid of that, and the same on this back one, we'll just remove those. Again, ideally here we've got much more vigorous growth. But ideally I'm going to go back to 2 there actually. Always changing my mind, aren't I? Do I want to bring it all the way back down to here, to this? So you look there. I think I like that, but I think, do I want that extending further up? I actually think the answer is no. So we'll remove that. Take those back a little bit. And then we come up higher here. So that way we'll get 2 coming out from this way. Then if we look higher up here, we've got 2 and 2. Now I've got an opportunity here. If I'm going to be developing this lower one, why don't I get rid of this here and let the movement then be, the trunk movement going to be from, I don't know if you can see it, up. I could go up that way and that way, bring it forwards towards us, so I can take the option there of going there and then out that way. And that's actually what I think I will do. So I'm going to remove the I'll just leave the small little ones on there for now. In fact, there's a little one there and there, but this is where I want the concentration to happen. I don't want this one under here, and I want to just take off the top a bit, so we've got that. Okay, I think that in essence is where it's at. And then all we really need to do now, I mean, that's it in its simplest form, is start looking at some of these stumps. That I like how it is already. Not too much of a stump there, so we've got this one here. A round of applause. I'm finally using a brush. Maybe there's hope for me yet. And we'll just have a look, make sure there isn't any critters. It's just there, scale. Again, we've always got to be keeping an eye on what's around. What I actually like about ash, like oak, is really obvious where the next bud points are. So we've got 2 black buds down here. We're going to have some big ones here that'll open, but also here we're going to have 2 here, and they're the ones I'm really going to like. That's going to keep that nice and low. There's a bud there, and where you know you're not going to want them, you can rub them out. But these are the ones again in the winter or the early spring. Either early spring or sort of mid to late autumn, I'll do my my nude pruning, where I'm picking next year's buds. Might just nibble away down here. So that's actually an opportunity now to try and get a proper rollover scar on that. And up here, and even up here I can see 2 bud points there, so if I actually wanted, say, to have a staggered, I could take one of these off and let the bud from there form, but in this instance I don't want that. So let's a bit of cut paste on it. And that's pretty well it. I know what I was trying to think of, ash, or I think they call it mountain rowan, or rowan. So there's probably variations on it, but all of them, compound leaves, all of them, easy as cookies to grow. Well, mind you, I've never tried cooking. Actually, how do you grow cookies? I think you grow them in the oven, don't you? Don't they use yeast and stuff like that? Bad phrase. Is that a metaphor? You use the wrong metaphor. There's an expression when you use mixed metaphors. Yeah, there's something mixed up going up in there. Okay, oh, we've got another stub there by the look of it. Oh no, that's they're going to be buds that open up. This was potted in this now. It's been in this for 2 years, so I know the one thing about ash is they're like larch. The roots are vigorous, and probably if I was in high insight would have repotted it this year. And I promise I get more organised, and the channel stuff is going to be a lot more structured. Well, no, it's me. Nothing's going to be structured, is it? Yeah, but this will definitely be down for repot next year. Love it. You can do a couple more on the camera, and then I'll just show you some before and after results. But that is how I deal with ash. And apart from scale, those which you saw me pull off, I don't find they suffer from any other. They don't seem to have mildew palsy or anything like that, or certainly at this size anyway. Okay, so this is one of 2 that I've set up for mame. This one, and the first thing I've seen immediately is that this branch has died. Don't need to close up to know that, so I am going to take it all the way back and remove it. I'm going quite deep, because I want that to produce a good rollover. I've probably gone too deep actually, but anyway. I've done it, taking a nice deep chunk out of it, probably more than I would normally have, but they are pretty resilient trees, and I want this to do a nice bit of rollover and healing. So I'll seal it up with some putty, which is what I should have done on that last ash. There we go. Alright, so we'll have a look at it, and as I say, for Rowan or mountain ash, it's definitely unique having them in such a small pot, and this is definitely a case of I should have repotted this year. But it's looking healthy. And what I'm going to look at is, again, we've got this lovely big growth up here, but I want to promote something lower down. So let's have a look and see what options are. We'll spin it around so you can see it properly. Again, if you look, bud points here, these are the ones really is what I want. And next time I do the hard prune once the leaves drop, I could, well, certainly in the early spring, prune it all the way back to there, because that's quite a long yucky growth. I could probably do it now and it would react quite well, but I have had, again, a bit like oak in the past, where you cut too much off at this time of the year and it says not in a million years. And again, down here we've got bud points here, at all the little junction points you can get leaves to come from. So even this branch, I'm not that happy with it. It's quite a long one, but for now, somewhere it's a nice bit of movement in the trunk. We've got this one moving over. I will do, although it's going across the front of the tree. Just for now, let's just produce some of the leaf mass. In fact, I'm going to do that. Right. I've often left them down to just one leaf pair at the tops. This is what I like most about this. We've got this options. There's going to be options here later in the year, but just for now, let's follow the movement. We're going up and around. Then we've got this bit up here. Then around here again, 2 leaf buds there. This pair here, that's definitely quite a long point there when you compare it to that distance there. You'd expect that next distance to be shorter in terms of symmetry. But there is a bit of movement going up. What I will do for now, just cut those back to 1s. We don't really want that middle one growing up, so we can get rid of that now. And there's definitely an argument for actually, in fact, it's not an argument. If I was arguing, there'd be doubt to do that. Remember, we're always trying to keep things small and miniature. So, you know, what that will probably do is, there's a leaf on there for such a small tree, that may well encourage some of these ones to push out. And that, oh, I know what we'll do, under here, we need to clean that up. So, okay. Yeah, I've now worked out why I don't like using brushes for this, apart from the fact that it destroys the brush very quickly. So I've washed this out. It just doesn't work as well for me, I don't like that. So, 56 years old, I'll keep going back to my finger, I think. Okay, so that's as much as I'm going to do with it. It will need a bit of extra food. That's the Oceania kelp-based mix, which I really like. And we'll see how that gets on. Now, an apology now, I have noticed I'm starting to dribble on a bit about my decisions and what's going through my mind, and there is perhaps a temptation to just overanalyze a tree and actually talk myself out of what was probably originally going to be a fairly straightforward decision. I think it's down to trying to do these videos, to be fair, because if I was honest with you, the decisions I've made there, although I dicker back and forth about them, they were already pretty clear and apparent before I started. And I suppose I'm just vocalising the myriad of thoughts that go through my mind, and they're not necessarily all going to make a load of sense. It's a bit like, well, yeah, did someone say I do a lot of verbal diarrhea, and that's what's going on up top as well. But for those of you who find that perhaps a little bit tiring, I apologise, and I'll try to reduce on the diarrhea, if that makes sense. Anyway, let's go for the next one, shall we? Okay, so as you can see, this is another weeny one. It's a little mame again. Basic care. Let's get some of these weeds out, who love to compete and vie for all that beautiful nutrients that's sitting in the soil. Because you all know that if you forget to do this, within 3-4 months you've got this lovely bed of grass, and it looks nice on top, and I think I've often used shears to just cut it level so it looks like grass. But the evilness of it is that beneath that lovely beautiful surface is a set of roots that are just going deeper and deeper, and they'll strangle the life out of your bonsai, especially in small pots. So, you know, much as I may like it, it's much easier to keep on top of it and remove it. So we'll give a spin of what it is now. Again, some interesting movement. And to say these came from a dig, I didn't say the year actually, it was back in, I think it was 2019 when I dug them up from under the Christmas tree farm. This has got a very, very weird bend here. And you know, this is one of those cases where that's how it's come out in nature, so that's how it's going to come out, and that will always be there. So I will work around that. And it may be that the front isn't going to be presenting exactly like that. So we'll look and see if we go here. I think that's a much better option. Certainly it's not so much in your face. And there I go, verbal diarrhea all over again, everywhere. So pruning decisions are very simple here. I'm just basically equivalent of leaf cutting, as I said before. Now beneath we've actually got this little small group there. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to develop out. I just want to get rid of these big ones, to be honest. Again, we've got this issue here. So we've got these two coming up from here, and then we've already got it extending up. Let's get rid of that. Just go back to one there. So here we've got this junction here. So let's make that a little bit more. And I've done away with the brush. I find that ash aren't a particular issue about dieback. Not to my experience anyway. If anyone knows different, please let me know. And we can share that in the comments. A That's the other good thing. I mean, I don't know about you, but I love reading through the comments of other people's bonsai videos, because the wealth of knowledge that comes in from the true experts, which are you guys and gals. Okay, we've got scarring down here. I'm not going to deal with that now. I could start biting away and nibbling at that, but I'm not going to. So we've reduced there. We've got a little 2-leaf off here, and probably we'll reduce that as well. Okay. Here, truthfully, I'm going to leave it and see how it develops. Put my sticky label in it. And why do I have my sticky label? Because when I finish this later on this evening, I take my notes, I go back to my my bonsai database, my Excel bonsai database, designed brilliantly by my daughter Lexi, and I know quite a number of you are now using it. And in fact, a plea there, if you found the database has really worked well for you, can you feed that back to me? If you think other people would benefit from using it, then the only way they're going to know that is if you whack some comments on the original video for it. So that's the first of the bonsai tutorials for my bonsai database. If it is something that you think you might want to try, there's no cost incurred at the moment. It's not going to be commercialized, so it's just a private thing. And as I've said to people when they try it, if you fancy giving a donation so that I can buy Lexi a nice Chinese meal, entirely up to you. All I ask, feedback. Okay, love this one. Didn't have to make any big decisions on it. The front is going to be somewhere around here, but again, lovely. There's just that insinuation, a little bit of movement. Some nice branch structure there. There's an argument to say that this branch here, come the next big pruning decision in early spring, may well be about bringing it right back here or back to here. But for now, I'm happy to let that go. We'll give you a spin. There's a potential bud point from here. Lovely, lovely. I like the roots. Interesting. It's got to come out of this plastic training pot, and again, like the others, it's should have been repotted this year. There's probably an argument, actually. There's quite an argument for a front here. Interesting. And there is also another argument. I'm doing it again. I'm vocalizing. Removing here. So getting rid of all that top part, although I probably won't because this is quite ugly, but I can clean that up. And then that would allow these to, well, I don't know, probably not, you tell me. It's quite straight there, but it's, again, sometimes it is about getting that. I do like that as the front, I think. I like the way the movement is. Anyway, that's the next dash. Let's keep on going. Couldn't help it. If you're watching this now, they don't exist anymore, and you'll know that already. Actually, no, you probably won't know. You'll probably see the video that relates to this in over the next week or so. But yeah, this has been the best bloom I've had for Satsuki Azalea since I got them back in 2017. So many flowers, and every day I look out, the bloom just gets better and better and better. But I just had to share it because it's still brilliant, isn't it? Absolutely brilliant. And all my Satsukis have got lovely blooms on them. But yes, back to ash. Polar opposites really, aren't they? Okay, well, I've done the last two, and in fact I've just remembered I've got my Rhino pond to do, so we'll do that, and if it's not too long we'll get to see it all. Isn't that good? Okay, I've taken a major branch off, but less sure where the front is on this one, but again, got some nice branching coming up and some graceful movement on some of these branches here. So it's more about asking the tree to do a little bit more for me really on this one. Could be a front there, I don't know. I may even remove this entire branch. So that's that one. And then we've got this one. Again, it's just nothing special about it, but just slowly starting to build something. As you say, as you get further on, you can see they're the ones that I'm less certain where I'm going with them. But I tend to be fine when I'm less sure. I tend to prune back harder and try and promote, budding from a lot lower down. Maybe something in there. But if you look at the way I haven't used the word taper once in this video, but if you look at the way the taper is there, there's not much on this. We've got tapering down here, but this one maintains that same thickness all the way up to here. Which won't necessarily be a bad thing. I've still got ideas of potentially dare I say the word literati, but that's there as well. But again, I've tended to cut the compound leaves back to 2 or to 3 or even to 1 and just removed conflicting branches. Shall we have a look at Rhino Forest now, shall we? Okay, bit of fun with this, and Jonas, I'm sure you'll recognise the bowl or the pond pot here. There's the Rhino there, and this is just basically nice odd number. Yep, 5. Throwing them in, and to be fair, they're just grown as they do. So, a little spinny. And ash and rhinos, I tend to find that when you look in the reference books, as Nigel often does when he's sort of thinking about his groups, rhino, ash, they pop up quite a lot. You should have a look on Google, you'll see. In fact, if you look on Google on ash, you'll probably find that this video comes up. It's not a plug, is it? Anyway, so that's it as it is. I will I will cut that back exactly the same way and then show you how it comes out. Okay, so all done and dusted. Mr. Rhino is very happy, and he's munching away on the mould that's in the scum that's on the pond top. Have a spin. It's interesting. I like it. I like it a lot. How it develops over the years, we'll wait and see. But again, like oak, as I said, you can continually cut these right back down to buds when you're in the early spring before the leaves bud. It's a very interesting trunk movement. And there's another bird that's just taking another pile of moss off some of my trees. So, there you go. Very interesting. Okay, so hopefully we've had a bit of fun with ash. Hopefully you're enthusiastic about just how easy they are, because they're so readily available in the UK. But you may see if you can go. You may actually see if you can find some ash near where you live. Stay away from the ashtrays, boom, and yeah, I think that's me done for this morning. I'm going to go and have some lunch, catch up on some notifications and messages, and well, if the sun doesn't come out, it's Genko this afternoon. So from Xavier in my bonsai retreat, I really do thank you for taking time to watch, especially if you make comments, and if you don't, that doesn't bother me either. All the best, happy bonsai, and God bless. Cheers. Oh, and if the check is offensive, there's not a lot I can do about this. Lexi bought it for me.